containment field flickered once, twice, then died with a sound like breaking glass. In the xenobiology laboratory of Arcturus Station, something ancient stirred. Diana Chen barely had time to look up from her datapad before the creature emerged from its cell. The Valdrosi, a species thought extinct for millennia until this specimen was discovered frozen in a comet, unfolded itself like a nightmare given form. 8 meters of scaled muscle, 6 limbs ending in talons that could slice through titanium, and eyes that burned with an intelligence that made her breath catch. The other students screamed. They ran, but Diana's legs wouldn't move. She'd spent 3 months studying this creature, analyzing its neural patterns, documenting its behaviors. She'd been the one to notice that it responded to music, that it seemed to understand context, that behind those fierce eyes was something more than animal instinct. While her professors dismissed her theories as anthropomorphization, she'd continued her observations in secret. Now, as the Valdrosi pulled itself free from the remains of its enclosure, Diana stood frozen. Not from fear, but from wonder tinged with terror. The creature's head swiveled toward the fleeing students. It took one step, then another, its claws clicking against the metal floor. Emergency alarms shrieked. Somewhere blast doors were sealing, but not fast enough. "Please," Diana whispered, though she didn't know what she was asking for. The Valdrosi stopped. Its massive head turned toward her, and for a moment that stretched into eternity, they locked eyes. Diana saw something in that gaze, recognition perhaps, or memory. Then Oliver Kim burst through the side entrance, weapon drawn. "Get down!" he shouted at Diana. Oliver was station security, barely 23 and clearly terrified. His hands shook as he aimed at the creature. The Valdrosi's attention shifted instantly. It growled, a sound that resonated in Diana's chest and lowered itself into a predatory crouch. Oliver was between the creature and the only other exit. The young security officer was going to die, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. "No," Diana found her voice. "Oliver, lower your weapon." "Are you insane?" Oliver's voice cracked. "That thing will kill us all." The Valdrosi tensed, preparing to spring. Diana saw its muscles bunch, saw the calculation in its eyes. Oliver wouldn't even have time to fire. Diana did the only thing she could think of. She stepped forward, placing herself between the creature and the security officer. "Diana, move," Oliver screamed, but she didn't. Instead, she began to hum, the same melody she'd played for the Valdrosi during her observations. An old Earth song her grandmother had taught her, simple and haunting. The creature froze mid-lunge. Its head tilted, regarding her with an expression she could only describe as confusion. "It's okay," Diana whispered, keeping her voice steady despite her hammering heart. "Nobody's going to hurt you. I promise." Behind her, Oliver made a strangled sound of disbelief. "Diana, that thing is a predator. It doesn't understand." The Valdrosi moved so fast Diana barely saw it. But it didn't attack. Instead, it positioned itself beside her, between her and Oliver, its body forming a living shield. A low rumble emanated from its chest, not quite a growl but a warning. "Holy." Oliver's weapon clattered to the floor. More security personnel arrived, weapons charged and ready. Captain Yates, the station commander, assessed the situation with wide eyes. "Nobody fire," she ordered. "Someone tell me what I'm looking at." Diana's mind raced. The creature was protecting her. After being imprisoned, after being poked and prodded and studied like an object, it was choosing to guard her rather than escape or attack. Her theories hadn't been wrong. The Valdrosi was sapient, capable of judgment and perhaps gratitude. "It's not hostile," Diana said, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. "Not to me anyway, and not to anyone who isn't a threat." "That's a Class 7 predator, Miss Chen," Captain Yates said. "It's extremely hostile by definition." "Then why am I still alive?" Diana kept her eyes on the creature. Slowly, carefully, she extended her hand. "Why is Oliver still alive?" The Valdrosi's great head lowered. For a heart-stopping moment, Diana thought she'd miscalculated everything. Then the creature gently pressed its snout against her palm, a gesture of trust that made her eyes sting with tears. "Humans," Professor Aldrin's voice came over the intercom, tinged with awe. "We've been monitoring from the safe room. The creature's neural activity, it's off the charts. Cognition patterns consistent with higher reasoning and emotional processing. Oliver had backed against the wall, his face pale. "Diana, how did you—" "I listened," she said simply. "I watched. I tried to understand instead of just cataloging." She kept her hand on the Valdrosi's scaled hide, feeling the warmth there, the steady rhythm of its breathing. We imprisoned it without ever asking if it wanted to be here, without considering its feelings. Is it any wonder it broke free? The creature rumbled again, but this time Diana recognized it for what it was: contentment. Or as close to contentment as a captive being could feel. Captain Yates lowered her weapon. "So what now? We can't just let a Class 7 predator wander the station?" Diana looked into the Valdrosi's eyes and saw intelligence looking back. She saw loneliness. She saw a being that had been alone for millennia, imprisoned in ice and then in steel, studied but never understood. "We give it a choice," Diana said. "We let it decide." Over the following hours, with Diana as mediator, something unprecedented happened. The Valdrosi demonstrated its intelligence through a series of careful interactions. It solved complex puzzles, responded to mathematical concepts, and most remarkably, when offered an open airlock and freedom, it chose to stay, but only if its living conditions changed. Oliver, still shaking from the encounter, brought the creature food as a peace offering. The Valdrosi accepted, and in that moment, a strange bond formed between the young security officer and the ancient predator. Diana stood between them, human bridge to something humanity was only beginning to understand. They'd called their species Homo sapiens, wise man. Today she'd proven that wisdom wasn't about domination or study from a distance. It was about empathy, trust, and the courage to see intelligence in eyes that didn't look like your own. The Valdrosi had broken free. But it had chosen to stay, and in doing so had taught humanity a lesson about freedom, choice, and the universal language of respect. In the end, the beast didn't need chains. It needed understanding, and Diana had given it exactly that.